The most profound peace you'll ever feel might be the silence after you stop waiting for the phone to ring. This isn't just any quiet. It's not the hush of an empty house. It's the specific stillness of conversations that were never truly two-way, finally ending. It's birthdays that come and go without the obligation of performance, and a calendar with nothing but your own intentions written on it. You never intended to become this person. The one who stepped back, the one who faded from the group chat, the one they probably discuss with a confused shake of the head. There was no grand declaration, just a gradual, breath-by-breath retreat from a script you were tired of reading. Maybe this feels familiar. Perhaps you're living it right now. You're the one labeled distant, changed, closed off. But what they never witnessed was the isolation you carried while standing right beside them. This is the inner world of someone who withdraws completely. You realize weeks have bled into months without a meaningful check-in. Your schedule is yours alone, and beneath the expected loneliness there's a startling, undeniable sense of relief. When an invitation arrives now, "I can't" isn't a lie. It's a line drawn in the sand, and you don't feel the need to explain its placement. This evolution took seasons, not seconds. You didn't lose your warmth overnight. You awoke gradually to a history of imbalanced scales. You were the constant, the listener, the one who remembered anniversaries and showed up with soup and sat through the hard stories. Then your winter came. You had your own fracture, your own moment where the ground gave way. You reached out, your hand empty and open, and you were met with space, a generic text perhaps, a promise to call that evaporated into thin air, a chorus of "I'm so swamped right now." It wasn't the absence of help that carved the deepest mark. It was the crystal-clear realization that you had always been navigating this alone. You had just been too busy holding others up to notice. The calculus of every friendship shifted then, against your will. You began unconsciously measuring the energy spent against the depth returned. The math was brutal and undeniable. You were offering water from a well everyone assumed was bottomless, while their own cups remained firmly capped. So you stopped offering. People noticed, of course. When you stop being the architect of every plan, when you stop bridging the silence, when you say no until the asks simply cease, they see the change, they just don't see the why. "You're so different now," they say, the words laced with blame. They're asking for the ghost of you to return, the version that smiled while overgiving. They don't understand that ghost couldn't breathe. Your body learned a brutal lesson long before your mind caught up. It mapped a pattern. Openness leads to ache. Vulnerability becomes a liability. Show your true core and you'll eventually be left holding the jagged pieces alone. The friend who vanished when your light dimmed. The partner whose love was conditional. The family present for the photo, absent for the fall. Your mind began forecasting the finale in the first act. You'd meet someone and a quiet, weary part of you would already wonder, how will this one end? This wasn't pessimism. It was the hard data of experience. So you started managing the only variable within your control, the departure. If endings are inevitable, you would choose the timing. Leaving first isn't a power move, it's a pain management strategy. The sting of abandonment is less when you're the one who turns the key. This isn't about explosive fights or dramatic exits. It's far more silent. It's texts left in the red state becoming a permanent archive. It's moving cities and sending the new address to no one. It's deleting accounts without a farewell post, denying anyone the chance to ask you to stay because you already know they wouldn't. You might bump into a former confidant. Pleasantries are exchanged. "Good, you?" Inside, you're calm. You understand now that you shared proximity, not a world. They loved a performance, and the actor has left the stage. The most difficult truth: you felt more alone in those crowded rooms than you ever do in your own quiet space. The solitude you've chosen finally mirrors the internal reality you've always lived. Some believe you must hold a secret hatred for them. The reality is more peaceful and more devastating. You've reached a state of neutral calm. Hate would require a sustained investment of feeling. You've simply closed the account. They crave closure, a final conversation where you lay out the map of your grievances. But closure requires speaking your truth to an audience that never truly listened. It means pulling stitches from wounds that have only just sealed. So you offer no explanation. Let them craft the narrative that soothes them. You won't be reading it. What surprises you is the absence of the expected devastation. The holiday spent solo. The crisis you navigate with your own two hands. You braced for a crushing emptiness. Instead, you found a spacious calm. You discovered that quiet can be a sanctuary, not a sentence. This blueprint wasn't drafted in adulthood. Its lines were etched much earlier, perhaps with a caregiver who was physically present but emotionally distant, a home where affection had unspoken prerequisites. You might have been the child who learned that tears were an inconvenience, that needing help elicited sighs, that your joys should be muted to avoid making others uncomfortable. Your developing brain absorbed a core survival truth. To need is to risk. To depend is to grant someone the power to disappoint. Connection is the prelude to loss. So you adapted. You became self-sufficient not as a preference but as a primal defense. You mastered reading rooms, making yourself small, anticipating needs before anyone had to ask. Those early dynamics were the template, and every adult relationship that followed seemed only to provide a fresh photocopy. The accusations still find their mark. You're guarded. You won't let anyone in, as if you haven't spent years trying to rewrite that very template. You forced the vulnerability, swallowed the fear, and hoped. The results were a repeating record. The friend who faded when your life hit a minor chord. The partner who adored the polished you but recoiled from the raw, unfinished edges. The promises of support that dissolved into the ether the moment you called them in. You remember the exact textures of those letdowns. The 3 a.m. message that was seen but never answered. The "can I call you later?" that meant never. You recall navigating their emergencies with a full heart, only to find a field of empty gestures when your own crisis bloomed. Their reasons were always valid, and they all translated to the same quiet sentence: "You will handle this alone." So you stopped trying. This wasn't a fracture, it was a final, logical integration. Your nervous system had been shouting a warning for years. This investment is bankrupting you. You were spending emotional currency on debts that would never be repaid. You began auditing the relationship. Who initiated? Whose narratives filled the air? How often did you contort your life to fit theirs? The ledger told a stark story. You weren't in a partnership. You were a solo performer, and the audience's attention was always conditional. People misunderstand. They think you've traded connection for isolation. They don't see that for you. This chosen solitude isn't the opposite of community. It's the ceasefire from a war of constant, quiet rejection. It's the one place where you cannot be abandoned because you've ceased issuing invitations to the dance. Your perception has become finely tuned. You can now spot the archetypes in the opening chapters. The user, who only appears with a need. The fair-weather companion, present for celebrations but absent for trials. You sense the transactional weight before the first bill comes due. You've memorized the rhythm of a slow fade. Replies grow thinner, plans become hypothetical some days, and you become a priority that's perpetually pending. You've seen this story too many times to feign surprise. So now, at the first familiar cue, you simply stop turning the page. Some will say you've surrendered on humanity. They're mistaken. You've surrendered the act of pretending that scraps are a meal. You've given up on bonds where you must be lesser to be loved. You've quit explaining your heart to people who only ever wanted to diagnose it as the problem. The problem was never you. The problem was a lifetime of accepting crumbs and calling it sustenance, of celebrating a seat at a table where you were only ever served emptiness. Walking away isn't a rejection of love. It's the ultimate act of honoring the self. They call you icy. You're not icy. You're just no longer willing to hemorrhage for those who can't even see you're bleeding. They accuse you of building fortresses. You built a gate. There's a vital difference. A gate allows entry to those who approach with genuine intent. But after years of only meeting travelers who take and never give, the gate remains shut. And that shut gate starts to look, from the outside, like a fortress wall. Perhaps it has become one. Perhaps that's what preservation looks like after one too many fires. Your deepest loneliness didn't arrive in this quiet. It lived in those loud rooms full of people, where you felt like a ghost. It was in the chasm between what belonging was promised to be and what it actually was, a relentless, one-way giving. Scrolling through old pictures, you don't yearn for the faces. You mourn the version of you in those frames, the one who still believed that if you poured enough, the cup would someday be refilled. That version nearly emptied itself into oblivion. You didn't run away. You walked toward survival. Toward mornings where you aren't bracing for disappointment. Toward a peace that doesn't require the silencing of your own needs. Maybe, in time, you'll unlock the gate again. Maybe you'll meet someone who makes safety feel innate, not earned. Maybe. But for now, you are tending a fragile internal flame. You are protecting its light by refusing to place it in every passing wind. Because the next draft might extinguish it for good, and that faint glow is all that remains of the hope to try again, one distant day. This withdrawal isn't the absence of care. It's the presence of a profound self-protection. It's your entire being finally stating, enough. Enough shaping yourself to fit spaces that were never yours. Enough accepting less and calling it connection. You are not the villain in their tales. You are not the flaw in the equation. You are someone who discovered, through repeated evidence, that being truly alone is less isolating than being lonely in a crowd. Someone who chose integrity over inclusion. Someone who finally stopped attending parties in their own honor that no one else showed up to. They will talk. Let them. You know the raw truth. You extended chance after chance. You forgave beyond reason. You were too sensitive because you paid attention when others looked away. You did everything the playbook suggested, and the promised reward never materialized. The flaw wasn't in your effort. It was in the recipients who never intended to match it. You're not hiding. You are standing, finally still, in a clearing of your own making. A place where your value isn't negotiated by those who leave. Where the silence isn't hollow, it's filled with the profound, unshakable peace of being finally, fully, seen by yourself. And if this resonated with you, if you see your own reflection in this quiet space, please let us know by giving this video a like. It helps this channel, Winds of Thought, reach others who might need to hear this today.